So training the pecs in their lengthened position is like a really easy thing to do. Just grab a pair of dumbbells or a barbell or some fixed implement bar and just basically do free weight presses. You got a ton of tension in the bottom where you're strong. It's great. It's all nice and fun. Training the short position is a little bit more nuanced and a little bit more difficult to set up and execute for a couple of different reasons. The first reason is that you have to do it single arm, right? Unless you're a huge guy or girl where you can basically just like, this is your end range because your pecs are so big and they're running into each other. A lot of you will have a range where, like me, your arm, your fully shortened position of the different pecs is across the body, okay? So first things first, if you want to fully shorten a pec, you got to do it single arm. Second thing is that the fully shortened position of the three different pecs will be in slightly different positions, right? So the lowermost pec, that costal pec, will end up somewhere down here, like you squeeze sort of down and across toward the bottom of the sternum and where the, the costal fibers attach on the ribs. The sternal fibers obviously running all along the sternum. The inner fibers, if you want to call them that, they sort of run up and a little bit more inward this way, and then the clavicular fibers are slightly north of that, just in a little bit more of like, instead of a totally across sort of a path, they come across, but a little bit more up. So it's kind of like down into the middle, straight across, and then directly up, or directly up from that point. And those are the three divisions, right? And if you know those different end range positions, all you really need to do is get into that end range and then take a load, whether it's a machine and you're sort of manipulating yourself, or a cable, right, like a functional trainer. Get into that position, put something in your hand, and have the hand be pulled down in that direction. So I'm just going to demonstrate like the press around type motion, which I originally got from the guys at N1 Education, so shout out to them. It's basically like a much better version of a fly, okay? So first things first, I'm just gonna do like a variation that I would do maybe for the middle pec, but the setup in terms of the principles and the steps that you'll take are all the same for all the different variants. You just have to sort of tweak where the cable setting is at. So first things first, when you're setting up, you wanna make sure that when you grab the cable out, it's actually sitting parallel to your forearm. A lot of people I see do these will either have the cable too low, right, where it's not parallel with your forearm, or too high, where it's basically just sitting on top of your upper arm. Both of those, no good. We want to keep the cable nice and parallel to the forearm, and also have something that is directly sort of in front of us to be able to grab. So I have the privilege of having this nice functional trainer. A lot of you will not have that privilege. So what I would recommend is to bring over something like a bench, or if you're in in a cable stack that's maybe a little bit wider, like that have the sort of two towers, you can grab the cable and walk over to the other side of the stack and grab the other stack. That's totally fine as well. I've seen a ton of people have success with that. Basically, you just need something to oppose the load. So for me, it's this functional trainer, and I grab it right there. So I'm going to set up again, cable parallel to the forearm. And what I'm going to kind of do from here is just shimmy so that my arm is pulled back, but not so far back that I'm now facing away from the arm, right? You still want to face a little bit into the arm. And if you need like a little bit of a reference point for this, just to start off, just make sure that you can keep the cable in contact with your forearm, and then turn away enough to where the arm is pulled back, but the cable isn't wrapping around your body. So this is the cable sort of wrapping around me. And if I stay here and I turn too far this way, it starts to wrap that way. So you stay in a position basically where it's just pulling the forearm back. And then from there, you just find that end range position where you come up and across too, right? And so if I look at it, we look at it from this angle, right? Obviously I would have something over here now just to show you all a different point of view. I'm just coming up and across the body to where that cable wants to pull me down and out at that end range, right? Because again, keep in mind that if you're doing the press like this and you press straight forward, the cable is now no longer pulling out, it's just pulling straight back, which wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing, but if you want to train the fully shortened position of any division of the pack, again, you need something that's pulling your arm outward and not just backward, because something like a dumbbell is just going to pull the arm back and it's not going to pull the arm out. And so this exercise will be complementary to any one of your free weight presses, whether it be dumbbell, barbell, whatever. So again, set up, cable parallel, turn away just a little bit, but not so much that it's wrapping around you. Press out and around like you're just doing a fly. And then the last thing that I would recommend is a lot of you will probably intuitively sort of want to come out and a little bit too far up, like a sort of delt press, right? Like a press that you would normally do like on lying flat on a bench, where you just come up and sort of toward your face. Great way to avoid that, especially initially when you yourself are learning this or when you're teaching it to other people, is just try to keep your palm to your face, because if you'll notice, like when I turn my palm to my face, my arm naturally actually wants to sort of mirror that and stay close to my body. Pecs, recall, they're gonna stretch nice and tight to the body. So when you grab the load, keep your arm tight to your body by turning your palm toward your face, and then keep your palm toward your face through the entire range, right? And what you'll find is that it's much easier to stay nice and tight to your body. You stretch tight, and then you contract tight, just again by keeping that palm toward your face. Now, if you wanted to train a little bit more of the upper pec, what you would do is you would mirror that in the cable and just move the cable a little bit lower to match that arm path. So for me, it would be something like this. And again, keep in mind that my forearm matches the cable, so it's not gonna be here and it's not gonna be here, nice and parallel. The loading is just a little bit more downward now as opposed to back. And so I can press a little bit higher and across, right up and toward that clavicle. And then if I wanted to do the costal, right, or the lower pec, what I would do is I would just go to the other extreme. I would take it high, and then I would bend over a little bit so that my arm can stretch up and back and come down and across, kind of like I was mimicking at the beginning of the video when I was coming down and across that way. Again, all I'm gonna do to set that up is just ignore the cable for now. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to that position, which squeeze that lower pec, and then I'm gonna track my arm up and outward and be like, okay, where does that load appropriately fit that forearm angle? There it is. I also like to bend a little bit over when I'm doing the costal pec, just because it can be a little bit hard to stabilize because of that sort of upward line of pull slash force. So again, you have upward angle to lower press. That whole time that cable is staying nice and parallel to my forearm. It's not coming like this, it's not coming like this, and it's not coming like this. So other than that, that's pretty much it. I would say the only other main thing that I would really make sure of when you do this is just to remind yourself of that forearm thing the whole time, because a lot of the times, a lot of the problems are very similar and they come back to that forearm problem. So again, that forearm thing is just a light contact of the cable and the cable is parallel. A lot of people that I've seen do this who have now like learned this movement and are trying to get it out, which I think is a good thing, end up like doing this sort of a thing at the bottom, right, where the cable isn't touching their forearm at all, and it kind of defeats the purpose of the motion, because the whole point of the motion is to make it a press that stays narrow and comes across. When you do this, you kind of turn it into a fly type motion, right, where the elbow is static. You want an elbow path or an elbow portion of the range that is dynamic. You want an elbow that moves, right? So let the elbow bend and let it extend naturally, because when you don't and you keep it fixed and you basically just do this, now you're just doing a fly all over again, and you sort of take away the things that actually make this motion really, really unique compared to any of the other variants that you could do for a shortened position pec. So those are the cable press arounds. Again, shout out to N1 and the guys there who are, doing this kind of stuff to, figure out these motions and popularize them. They're a great resource. And if you have any questions, drop them below. I'm happy to answer.